You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
Touchdown! A.J. Brown! An interception by the Eagles! He is hit. They got him again! They got him back at the 26. He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles!
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds. My name is Brian Cameron, alongside Zach Chavalella, and our special guest, a little bit of a crossover episode with our guy AB at Open Gym Network. How you gentlemen feeling today?
I'm pretty good, man.
Great.
Pretty good.
Honestly, AB, we're happy to have you, man. Excited. AB and I go back a little bit, PSN, came back PSN, and now I'm super excited and stoked to talk a little birds with my guys. So happy to have you here, AB. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's time to update that intro. Got to add the Saquon hurdle backwards hurdle now in there.
Oh yeah,
that was the most incredible. Like, the TV doesn't do it justice, because the moment he did that, one, Lincoln Financial roared, and then the moment the replay kicked in, it was just like the whole place started shaking. Like, it was that man is gifted. Right?
Yeah.
God took his time with him.
Absolutely. That was with the pop-up girls, sugar, spice, and everything. Nice that he made sure he got all the ingredients right with him. For sure.
Damn lot of air in that guy too, man. I'll tell you that.
It's
Absolutely
insane, man. And Shady alluded to it before the game started. During his press conference, he was like, Saquon's built like, Shady wasn't the most strongest running back, but he was swifty and he got through tackles. But Saquon's just another animal, and it's just, I'm glad he's on our side this time around, and I'm pretty sure the Eagles' offense is also glad, because he's been carrying them for majority of the season. Philly did defeat the Jaguars 28-23, and while heading into the second half, it seemed like they were on a roll to a blowout win. Jaguars came back because of a questionable fumble that should not have been ruled a fumble. That opened the door to the Jaguars coming back, but Kobe Dean got the job done, interception in the end zone. While the fact that the Eagles were able to avoid the collapse and avoid failure in a very special night, it's being heavily overlooked that their efforts to avoid that collapse because of the decisions of Nick Sirianni, which I guess we'll just dive right into it, right? Sirianni had some questionable decisions for 2-point conversions on 4th and 1 as well, and then another 4th down where he actually turned to Jake Elliott for the first time in forever in a 57-yard field goal attempt. I weirdly enough, and I've been very hard on Sirianni all season, Zach can allude to this, I weirdly enough do not have an issue with him being aggressive in this game. I feel like we've been riding Nick so long this season, and terribly so, where to the point where it's like, this guy, he's trying to find himself still. And, the offense is finding their groove. Defense is finding their groove. The coordinators are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But Nick is still in a funk where it's kind of like, who am I? Like, what do I do well? And what he's always done well, what he did well for us to lead us into 2022's Super Bowl match, is he was aggressive. He was doing his thing on 4th and 1. Granted, the tush push, I'm not a big fan of it this year, just because we have Saquon. In years past, we had, Swift, we had Miles. He could do better. I'm not saying he can't. I just personally don't think we got to focus on that after the fact that we saw this team not falter in this collapse. How do you guys feel about the Sirianni decisions? You're on mute, AB.
I'm sorry. I'll be the contrarian here then to start it off. So I will give you this. The part of him being aggressive, him wanting to, you wanted him to keep that, that mantra, that style of play. Have no issue with that. Not once, not a little bit, because we had a guy here already, Doug Peterson, same way, super ultra aggressive. Like I said, we can go back to the Super Bowl that we won and countless other things. I have no issue with it. This is where the problem comes in for me when it comes to Sirianni with it. It's the reading the room, the understanding the situation, understanding what's going on, when to do it, when not to do it. I know a lot of people like to bring up the Super Bowl, Philly, things of that nature like that. One, again, context matters. Talk about Super Bowl, so you're laying it all out on the line. You talk about Tom Brady being on the other side of the field. You can't give that man a chance. He already was on pace to throw 500 yards anyway. So it's like that particular situation we had. I mean, we did a flea flicker in the game. When do we ever do a flea flicker that whole season? I don't remember doing one at all. So that lets you know how important or how the stakes against the stakes within that game. This in contrast to Nick Sirianni. In this particular game, let's just break it down to this particular game. The first one, I'm not too mad at because I do put that on Jaylen being late with the ball, getting in the cross. I felt like AJ Brown was open from the rip once the play started. When I seen him coming across the field, you can ask the friends I was with. I was screaming, AJ, because he's right there. So I put that more on Hurst than into anything. But the other two is more just like, what was that, 4th and 3, I believe it was in the red zone.
It was 4th and 1 on that one as well, which is weird that they didn't go for the run.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, we're up. Yes, we're up. Yes, we're moving. Yes, we're grooving. But we're about to go into halftime. It literally having 2 points added versus 1 point added, to me, didn't feel like it was that much of a big of a difference, especially because of how we were rolling, how we were dominating. We dominated. The score might not dictate it, but we literally dominated all facets of that game. Yardage, time of possession, everything possible within a game. So that wasn't a game that was warranted for you to be that ultra super aggressive, especially because I think we all can agree this is probably the first complete game that we've seen from our team all seasons, essentially like that, on all 3 phases. So for me personally, it's just reading the room. It's like, just because that's what you want to do and that's your style doesn't necessarily mean that it always has to be implemented. Because we can go to games previously before that one where we were like, dude, why wouldn't you go for here? We're getting beat or anything like that. So me personally, that's where I come in at, where it's just like, just read the room, just understand situations. There's nothing wrong with being aggressive, but you can't also be at the detriment of our team, as we've seen, even though the refs help. But as we've seen, it was a closer game than needed to be.
Yeah, and like you talked about, there's a lot of different reasons why that was the case, right? First and foremost, I don't think we need to talk about it a ton. It's the most egregious call that we've seen this season. The most, as watching the Eagles, that I can remember since going back to, who was it who got their face mask yanked all the way around?
Dallas Goedert, but I'm going to one up you on that one. Remember the fumble that every single Eagles defender was surrounding against the Cowboys, and they said it was not a clear recovery?
Yeah.
But was that not on? So I'm not talking about Goddard. I'm talking about this was on a kickoff, and I want to say that it led to a fumble as well.
Oh, I'm not sure about that one.
I'll come back if I remember that.
Yeah, I'm about to say, because I think I do believe what you're saying.
That is a good example as well, Brian. But like, I mean, this was ridiculous in the moment. It was ridiculous. Obviously looking at, once you got replay verification, you knew that he was down, and their explanation after the fact in the pool report, I mean, was nonsensical, completely ridiculous, and may God have mercy on their souls.
I don't believe that's the referee's name. I mean, Butterworth. It feels like
I thought it was General Mills now, but I must be mistaken. But when you look at the rest of the game, I mean, AB's right, like in terms of how complete the game was for Philadelphia, and the defense started slowing down in the second half. Momentum swung, and it's been a hot topic lately. But yes, momentum is actually a thing. And in addition to that, you had a defense that was starting to feel themselves a little bit, starting to get a little bit tired at the same time. It's just something that can happen. You have to stop it where it did, and they made that stop. The Kobe Dean specifically made that stop, and they did what mattered most. But overall, am I happy with the win? Yeah, I'm happy with the win. Were there things that you had to clean up in terms of play style, in terms of coaching? Yes, but I don't want to say a win's a win. I hate that phrase, but a win is absolutely a win. They got the win, man. Like they're 6-2. Things are looking good. The only thing, we're now past the trade deadline, and I'm sure we'll touch on this eventually. Pass rush is looking better. Played a lot of bad O lines lately, so I still need to see them against a better O line. Not going to happen this upcoming week. It'll happen at some point, and hopefully they're able to still deliver then. But from what we have been able to see, what we did see this past Sunday, I feel pretty good.
Just to piggyback off him, I'll be quick with the defense situation. That plays a factor into it too. We all know that football is the ultimate team sport. Like literally one side of the ball can't necessarily work without the other. So this is why I say you got to read the room and understand that we were moving, we were grooving, we were good. So when you do things like that, Zach spoke about it, momentum, things shift. So now your defense, okay, now they in the game. Now the defense, you playing 12 yards back off the ball, giving them yardage, things that they weren't doing early on, more press man, more attack style of defense essentially. Now that's affecting how the defense is going to play, how the offense now got to move. So it's just a lot of things that I don't think people realize, that decisions like that have effect on the game more than people really realize.
For sure. I sorry I'm late, fellas. I got caught in traffic on the way home. Haven't had.
We got a loaded cast today. A whole
man. Gang's all
all-star
here.
cast.
Gang's all here. It's been a while.
I'll be here for like another 5 minutes. Don't worry.
All right. Well, I won't take too much of your time, Erica. I haven't eaten yet, but I got beer, so fuck it.
You're good.
But
Beer is always good.
Exactly. If I gotta be, Zach and AB made a lot of good points, and honestly, we could hammer home on Nick Sirianni's kind of questionable play calling and questionable decision making. One thing I will say, man, is at least it's consistent, right? And then we've had issues before where it's not so much that I have an issue with the decisions, because what it says is, hey, we're a confident, chest forward team. We're gonna lead with our heads. We're gonna be headstrong. We're gonna challenge teams to beat us at our own game. Because I don't know the stats of it, but I would say if you're a team that goes for it on fourth downs a lot, it forces other teams to also go for it on fourth down, right? It changes the way the game is played and the way other teams have to approach that week, right? And not only that, but even in their week leading up to the Eagles, they have to prepare for fourth and short. They have to take time out of their practice now to prepare for the brotherly shove, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it does change the way that a team prepares for you. And so, at least it's consistent. Like you guys said, some questionable decisions. What I'm upset maybe a bit more is the play calling. Some interesting play calls on those short yardage situations where I get it. The brotherly shove's not working. It didn't work. That they figure something out, right? But you don't have to completely go away from it, right? Like, hand the ball off to Saquon and run for 2 yards, right, on third down. And then all of a sudden it's inches instead of 4th and 2, right? And then handed the ball to him again. Right, like I trust that guy to get a first down on 3 yards with 2 run plays every single time, and like that's I get it. It's not the brotherly shove, but it's pretty much the same shit. That dude can squat 600 pounds. Like, just give him the rock. And shit, if it's the other way around and Jalen's pushing him for a first down this time, I feel like the Eagles are in a good situation. So again, not so much the decision making, and again, I feel like that's one of those situations where we're already on Nick for so many things that just adds to the pile of stuff, right? Like, we've had situations where coaches in the past, even Andy Reid, one of the things that Andy Reid, when he was in Philly, was constantly berated for, was his clock management, his decision making, something he always had issues with in really important games as well. But Andy Reid's Andy Reid, so we let him get away with that stuff, right? He's a legendary coach. And the thing I'll say, like, on the defensive side of the ball is, it is a bend but don't break defense. We've been used to them kind of being dominant in a way, and bend but don't break defenses are a lot more scary when the team's driving down and it's almost going to be a tie game, right? Like that, it's a lot more scary to go, hey, bend but don't break. But what did they do, right? Came up with a big time interception, and I get it, might have been a poorly thrown ball, but it's good scheming as well, where you're getting him confident with those throws. He's getting the ball out early. He knows he's got that situation, and all of a sudden you kind of take it away from him. Like the announcers were saying, there's a lot of times, right, where where there's movement around and you're expecting man, you're expecting zone based on the movement that the defense shows based on the offensive movement. And all of a sudden now Nakobe Dean's in man coverage on the outside, right? Or maybe it's zone and he's tracking, right? Like there's a whole bunch of different looks. And that's kind of what the bend but don't break's about. It's a lot more scary when they're driving down. And I think one of the things, as much as, they're not a good team, one of the things to the Jaguars' credit is, I think they were saying out of their 6 games, they've been within 5 points, right? So whatever it is, their formula clearly doesn't work for them very much. It's not a great formula, but they've been able to hang in games, right? Still lose them because they're not a good team, but, they've been able to hang in games. So credit to them. They hung in a game again. And I think some of that decision making, you make some of those 3rd and shorts, those 4th and shorts. It's not even a close game anymore. We're not talking about the same thing. So huge point there. But to play devil's advocate, I think there is still a lot of good that's happening, and in the coaching too. It's not just on them for these plays. Sometimes you just got to make a play as a player. You call the tush push 3 times. I call it the tush push when it doesn't work. When it does work, it's a brotherly shove, right? But, it didn't work that time. And who's that on? Is that on the players? Is that on the coaches? Like, that's a 92% play. I'll say that.
Not this year.
I think it's a little bit on both, actually. I think it's on Sirianni. I mean, there's no reason why, I should be sitting there with a phone in my hand doing social media going, the personnel clearly doesn't work. You put Kenny Gainwell in there. You don't got Barkley. Brown's hurt. If it didn't work with the incorrect personnel the first time, maybe you don't do it again. Maybe you got Jake Elliott. You got, their punter. Between the both of them, those are 4 good legs. Use one. Like, I don't know. Kick the ball. And like you're leaving points on the board. The Philadelphia Eagles should have had at least 30. And by the way, that stat with the Jaguars talk about how they've been losing a lot of games within 5 points. They were gifted a touchdown that should have never even stood. So first and foremost, you guys and this is just me going on one about the Jaguars. They're a bad team because they couldn't take advantage of a gift wrap touchdown, and they couldn't take advantage of awful Nick Sirianni getting in his own way again. And that's what this came down to. Philadelphia still won the game. Philadelphia survived. They survived at the end there, and it's insane because he had a 22-point lead. And that right there cannot be. That is the difference when you go against teams that are even going to show their face in the postseason. You can't.
and
that
that's
right
all
there.
And that's all I'm getting to, because we say it all the time. I'm sorry, we say it all the time. Like, when we play a better quarterback, when we play a better team, and coaching, it goes for coaching.
Yeah, they played Joe Burrow just fine.
They did, but he also didn't make those type of decisions neither, though, as well.
Here's the thing, right? And Brian, I'm gonna let you finish, but here's the thing. When you look at this game, can you say the decision making was bad going forward here and there? I think you can definitely critique the decision making, and I think that's completely fair. I think that you have to mention it as a part of this game. When you get down to, and this is not absolving Sirianni, this is actually acknowledging part of the problem that he's created. We don't know who calls those plays on 4th down. That's a major issue. Whoever called the passing play.
I feel like we do. I feel like we do know that Sirianni is the one.
I was sitting there staring at
No, here's the thing.
Feels like 4 of us knowing this from this
think.
podcast.
You can say who you think because it fits your narrative, because it fits your agenda. But here's the thing. Kellen Moore, on the only time that this team has looked great has been, slowly after the bye week. We can't just say all the good stuff is Kellen Moore and all the bad stuff is Nick Sirianni. You just can't do that. So, when you look at the situation and you say, does Nick Sirianni have the final say? Like, theoretically he does, but if he's not calling plays, throughout the entire game, I get that he's telling guys, and this is something that he's even acknowledged, and this is the guy who has even falsely claimed to be calling plays for Vic Fangio at times. Mm-hmm. But when he's openly saying that he's not calling plays and he's actually just saying whether or not they're going for it, that's a clear indication in my mind that, it's not as simple as people want to make it seem just because they don't like Sirianni and they want him out of here. And on top of that, when you look even at that passing play, what the hell was Jalen Hurts doing? I get it. There are a litany of different plays that you can do ahead of that. But what the hell was he doing on that play? Just a complete failure by him as well. Like, you can't completely absolve the players either. So, I think Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of blame for this game almost getting out of hand. But you can't forget that the players deserve that blame as well. You can't absolve Kellen Moore of that blame either. Like, you can't just say it's as simple as Nick Sirianni just because it's convenient.
And the thing about Nick as well is, like, the Eagles rank 7th in the league in 4th down percentage. Like, they're converting 64% of the time when they go for on 4th down. So it's kind of like, hey, if they had scored on the 2-point conversions, which they did, one of them, the penalty was, was due to a penalty, was called back. But in 4th down as well, if they had converted, we're not having this conversation where it's like, okay, like, same thing with Doug. Hey, he has balls on him. He's doing what he needs to do to win. Nick, he's in a weird period where his team is really freaking good. And if this guy steps on the wrong eggshell, everything's going to collapse for him. And it's as a person, and that's scary as hell for that kind of person to carry that much weight, especially with an organization that's of the caliber that they are. Like, we expect these guys to be competing late in January.
Child, that's called an NFL head coach. All of them got that type of weight on them. I don't care who you are. Unless your name was Bill Belichick at one point and Mike Tomlin, I just feel like that's just that comes with the territory. And I mean, go ahead, Brian. I don't want to.
No, I was just saying, as far as the Jalen Hurts stuff, one thing that I think is not making a lot of sense is that they know Jalen is not an anticipation kind of thrower. Like, he's not that quarterback. Jalen wants to see his guys open. He wants to look his guy open and make sure that the pass gets there no matter what. So the AJ Brown play, I completely agree with you. He should have thrown it back shoulder, whatever the case may be, with anticipation, and he just didn't. Like, that's just not his game. So they're working out the kinks, but it's showing. We're seeing on the field that they're still working through all the kinks that they have to. But credit to them, right? This time last season, they were struggling, and Eric was on the podcast saying, like, this team is not good. This year, this team they're going through, and it's like, shit, like, no, they're going through it, and the moment it clicks, it's going to freaking click.
Well, two things before I head off on this real quick, just 2 points, and one kind of does relate to that, and it's because we don't know still what this team is, because this is a stretch where the Philadelphia Eagles have one of the easiest schedules. And we're going to sit here and say, oh, there's a win. Oh, the team might be back. Oh, this, that, and the other. And if they do win and they, kind of perform like this, we still have to remember this is the easy schedule, right? What's not easy at any point is the postseason. And you get in there and now you have to swim with the Sharks. You're not swimming with the minnows. You're not swimming with, slightly larger than minnows. You're swimming with the Sharks. But I will say this, there's clearly some things that Sirianni and Moore are coming together and they're figuring out offensively. They're marrying the offensive game with the running attack. And a part of what I wanted to point out is what I posted on our social media a little bit earlier. Here's Hurts in the last 5 weeks. 69% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 119.06 rating. That's just understanding that it's, and this is, by the way, with his weapons back, to be fair, but I included also, just for context, the Buccaneers game. So there is some sort of understanding when you can kind of mesh the run and the pass together. This Eagles offense is not one-dimensional. It used to be, oh man, look how great this rushing attack is. The passing attack could be a little suspect. I don't think that. And I think that's something that's coming to the forefront when you notice who's out of the game and who's still making plays. Like, Goddard hasn't been in for the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks even. Kyle Katera is still making plays. So I'm wondering at the end of the day here, how much of this coaching between Sirianni and Moore can help, kind of carry Philadelphia into the postseason. Well, I guess my answer will come from probably Philadelphia and Baltimore. So I'm going to head out real quick on that.
Go ahead, do your thing.
Drop
the mic and everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you guys both make good points. I feel like this game, if nothing else, right, really, I mean, I'll put up a highlight reel of the Philadelphia Eagles over any team in the league right now, right? Like the special things they're able to do, and they have highlight reel players, right? If nothing else, this game showed us what they could be capable of, right? Like, at the end of the day, you didn't really play a good. I mean, you played a pretty terrible second half, and still you put out some of the most ridiculous plays of the season, right? And so you talk about like OC and head coach, whoever calling plays, who knows, man? Fuck, it could be someone in the stands, maybe Big Dom's calling plays, who knows? But like whoever it is, you talk about on offense, you talk about positive plays, right? And like at the end of the day, if you're able to make those highlight plays, those X factor plays, like that's what wins you playoff games, right? Like we had it so many times in the past where the Eagles didn't win a playoff game just because like the X factor guys didn't make plays, and like that won't be a problem. And I'm not talking about recent history, but in general, right? Like a lot of teams in the past, you just needed that one guy, that highlight reel guy. And, James Thrash wasn't going to make that for you, when it was back when he was Donovan McNabb, and then they got Terrell Owens, and all of a sudden, they're in a Super Bowl, right? So, they have those pieces in place. The thing that the offense needs to do is find ways to get consistent positive plays. And it just seems like at times, like you give it to Saquon Barkley, and they just didn't want to do that sometimes. Or, a lot of times, like it's rollout reads for, Jalen Hurts. If he wants to see his players open, man, create half field reads for him. And you can't do that all game. I get it, but he's fully capable of dropping back in the pocket. And what we've seen that development of this year is he can make those plays. Is that his bread and butter, throwing over the middle, sitting back in the pocket? No. So give him something easy, right? Give him some time. 1st and 10. All right, play action. Let's get on the move. Let's have a high-low read on the corner or half, whoever playing low, and we'll hit the guy who's open. That's an easy read, right? And how many times have we seen that work? You just have to call it, right? And that's what the problem is. On the flip side, man, we talk about defense, like, create negative plays. And this is where I feel
Cooper DeJean.
Right, exactly. But these, Cooper DeJean's been fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But this is where I see the issue is a lack of negative plays on defense, right? We're not really creating that many takeaways, although, a couple that have been left out there that could kind of skew the numbers a little bit. A couple picks that should have been picked, a couple, fumbles that maybe the Eagles, got the bad end of the stick on, right? But you need to create those plays, and they're not doing it. The other thing they're not doing, like except for last week, against the Bengals, sacks haven't been easy to come by. Like tackles for loss haven't been easy to come by. Every single time, I get it. We're keeping them in 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6, but that's not 2nd and 12, right? That's not 2nd and 10. Those yards matter, and those are the kind of things like you play a team like Kansas City. They know how to put themselves in situations where it's 2nd and 5, right? They understand. Andy Reid understands that, how to do those things, and this is what this team needs to figure out. Is at the end of the day, your superstars can save you. Right. But if you dig yourself a big enough hole, and we talked about the slow starts, I mean, great. They scored a touchdown in the first quarter this time. It seemed pretty slow to me, right? Like it still seems like it's a bit lethargic, and then they get going. You talk about
the opening drive. It was a straight passes though. Those first like 2 or 3 plays, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Right. Like again, but like create positive situations all the time, right? Like easy. Like you should. This team realistically, with the stars they have, should never face 3 and outs. Just shouldn't happen. You have way too much talent. I get it. The defense will figure it out sometimes, but find ways to get the ball in your playmaker's hand. The other thing I'll say on offense, man, like this is a different team when AJ Brown's not in there, and this is way too talented of an offense to just not be able to figure out as soon as AJ Brown goes out. Like figure out ways to get Devontae Smith involved, but instead of just throwing up Hail Marys or prayers. And like Calcaterra, we talked about how, the offense hasn't really missed a step without Dallas Goedert in. No defense is scared of Grant Calcaterra. He's been racking up receptions because everyone else is scarier than he is, right? As soon as he's the number 2 in that offense, defenses are just patting the box and going, hey, listen, Saquon, good luck. We'll double team Devontae Smith and deal with the other receivers. We're not scared of them, right? And you see the way that offense just slows down as soon as AJ's out the game.
Does that go back to preparation? I get your guys' thoughts on it. Like, are we going back to talking about preparation of the head coach, like, and the offensive coordinator? Like, what are they not implementing in the game? Because, for example, like John Dotson, we know he's not a bum. We know he's not a scrub. We know that he can, when the ball's in his hands, he can make things happen. But the fact that they haven't incorporated him much into the target share, or even Devontae, Smith heavily into the target share like they should. How much of that falls on Sirianni and Kellen Moore? Or is that more of Jalen Hurts thing where it's kind of like he's not, going through his reads properly?
That's what I was about to say. Because I don't, just common sense type of guy. I don't think they're just not doing anything. They might not call his direct number. I'm talking about Jahan Dotson right now specifically. They're probably not calling his direct number on a certain player or anything like that, saying this is for you. But I can't, just with my right mind, can't think he's just being covered all day or he can't get open or anything like that. So I do believe that's a little bit more on Jalen Hurts more than anything. And we've seen it when he had his moments. Yes, early on when he got here, but when he had his moments, he caught one Sunday, a great one, and then even I believe it was the week prior when he caught the sideline pass on the side. So, like you said, we know he's not a scrub or anything like that, but I do believe that's more of a Jalen Hurts, Jahan Dotson chemistry, comfortability with them. And I feel like the reason why he threw it this past Sunday is more so like it's the only person left. It's only you and Smitty left over. We need to throw it to somebody. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. So I do believe that's more of a thing as it continues to go on, as they become more comfortable with each other and more so. Because we all know for sure that when Hurts doesn't trust you, we've been screaming for Dallas Goedert for the last 2 years to get the ball, and he's been here before Hurts. Only person we always say, you don't have to throw with the AJ all the time. Where's, like you said, where's Smitty at? Where's the check down passes to your running backs and stuff like that? So I believe when it comes to that aspect of the game and the offense, I think that's more of just a comfortability level of Jalen Hurts and the receivers. And as we've seen, he's been on a good arc of progression. So I feel like if that's continuing that way, we'll see more of Jahan Dotson for sure.
Yeah, I think he targeted or he hit 8 different receivers in the game against the Jaguars. So it's progressing, right? But it's like, I don't know. Like, again, maybe the expectations were way too high, right? Like we expected this team to just be competent and make things happen.
Because y'all been saying it all day. It's too talented of a team. That's all. It's just with this team, you shouldn't have to do too much. That's just me personally. We just named all the people: Goddard, Smitty, AJ, Saquon. List goes on and on. I just think you don't need to do too much. Go ahead, Zach.
Listen, keep it simple. Commit to what works, right? I think it's as simple as that. You see what this team did out of the bye week, and it's not. The message gets twisted, and people feel like, well, they're running to avoid Jalen Hurts throwing. Like, that's not it at all. You're establishing the run so that it opens up throwing opportunities for Jalen Hurts, and so you're maximizing his ability to succeed in that area. And then as far as factoring in Jahan Dotson, it's kind of the same idea. Keep it simple, Just you're not going to want Jalen Hurts to try him over the middle of the field just because there's that perception that's there's a little bit of uncomfortability. Lord help you if you think the way to do this is wide receiver screens with Jahan Dotson. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is
you just cursed at me, Zach.
just work on short route packages that are not wide receiver screens. Give Dotson a chance. All right. Yeah. Even just kind of, if you want to work him in an end arounds, things like that, gadget plays, like find a way to get the ball in his hands, get him comfortable, build that rapport with him and Jalen Hurts in a way that is low risk, medium reward, right? You don't need to necessarily have him break it off for 50 yards and a touchdown, right? Just get him comfortable in the offense, get him comfortable with Hurts. More importantly, get Hurts comfortable with him, and Jahan Dotson is going to come around. But in terms of the offense as a whole, whether or not AJ Brown is in, which it sounds like he'll be back next week, but regardless of what's going on with AJ, what they need just to make sure that this offense stays successful is commit to the run early, okay? Allow that to open up opportunity for Jalen Hurts, and that's when we get into talking about play actions. Morgan, what you're talking about even like starting a drive with play action on first down, fantastic. And the way that you really sell that is by making sure that teams know on their scouting report that you're ready to run on first down, right? So open up that opportunity for yourself, because the only person who can close that opportunity for you is you. So don't be your own worst enemy, as the Eagles have been throughout the season. That is something that I will say that Nick Sirianni has done. It's just not only been Nick Sirianni. It's been Sirianni. It's been Jalen Hurts. It's been, to a degree, we have to say Kellen Moore. We can't absolve him of all these play calling crimes, like I said. But focus on what works. Focus on Saquon Barkley. And we don't want to necessarily run him into the ground either. So make sure that you're giving him the appropriate workload, and then it opens up opportunities to mix in.
Give me some damn Will Shipley, please.
Listen, I love Will Shipley. I'd
Come
love
on.
to see Will Shipley. But the other thing too is, you remember the first couple weeks where everyone was talking about, oh, Jalen Hurts, he looks like he's lost a step. He might have lost 2 steps. Bullshit, he lost a step. Look at him now, right? Look at how he runs now. Like he leaped over a man like into the end zone. Like he was flying out there. It's not about Jalen Hurts lost a step. Get him comfortable in the rhythm of the game. Jalen Hurts is such a comfort creature in the game of football. You see how that comfortability level affects the way that he plays. And I'm not, smacking the guy by saying that. I'm just saying like that's, he's a guy who that level of confidence affects the level of his play, and that's fine. So do things to encourage that. Do things to help build that confidence. And by establishing the run, by setting him up for success early on, you're going to gain even more confidence, even more comfortability from Jalen Hurts, and he's going to be able to help lead your team to victory, whether it's through, with his legs or with his arms. Well, I should say arm.
And predictions now. Left.
He's switching. Listen, he'll get fancy like Mahomes out there. He'll start throwing left-handed shovel passes, and that's the next step in his career.
It does kind of feel like at one point the Eagles are going to bring in like a new OC, and someone's going to be like, "Hey man, have you tried throwing with your left?" And then we find out this whole time he was left-handed. Like, you know what I mean? Like it does kind of.
Don't be bringing that Ben Simmons nonsense in here, man. Don't be doing that. Don't be doing that. It does kind
of feel like someone just gave me like, "Hey, have you tried this?" And then the Eagles gonna be like, "Oh."
Philly had one and done, man. We're done. We're done with that.
No more left-hand experiments.
The one thing I will say, and Zach kind of talks about the run game, and I understand we're in a Sirianni, kind of bashing state right now, and that this might be tough to hear, but listen, the run game is ticking, and we talked about the way that Sirianni, we thought the way that Sirianni would affect the offense when he came to Philly, and that was the nuances in the run game. I get it. He's maybe not a great play caller, but as a play design guy, and clearly, was lacking last year. Obviously, it seems like kind of a write-off last year, but there are some things in this offense, especially in this run game, that have Sirianni markings kind of all over them. And I get it. Kellen Moore's a genius as well in play design, but there are some things here that are working and are starting, like Dan Casey. He breaks down plays all the time on Instagram, on Twitter, all that stuff, and he broke down some run plays the Eagles have run. These are things that we used to see with Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. And they're brilliant, man. Like, you have this offensive line who has been banged up, right? And there's been no drop-off in the way that you're able to run the football. And I get it. Saquon kind of is the Mentos fresh maker. You know what I mean? Like, even if you can't block for him, he'll figure out a way. He's going to backwards hurdle someone, which I don't even know if we brought that up yet. But, like, I feel like we don't have to. I feel like people that, like, in Thailand right now have never seen a game of football. Like, oh, do you see the Saquon play? They wouldn't be speaking in English, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's I mean, stuff like that, right? It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, there have been some runs where it's wide open for this guy. You give him 5 yards of space, he's not getting hit until 9-10 yards downfield. That's a recipe for, like, just stick with that. I get it. You have to pass the ball, all that stuff, but like until someone stops the run the football over and over again and create little, like, sometimes you have a guard pulling, sometimes he's trapping, like. Just those little motions, man. Like, the defense is already worried about so much. Sometimes it's just little adjustments, and it feels like sometimes the offense is just outthinking itself. Like, we always live by a principle, where our coach is called KISS, the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes you just got to do that.
Just be kissing out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Well, all I was going to say is, like, we talked about this last week, and the importance too feeds into the offensive line situation, right? So obviously the line's banged up now, and we've seen guys kind of come out periodically here and there. Mekhi Becton's missed a little bit. Lane Johnson's missed a play or two here. Obviously Fred Johnson's over there playing left. Like, establishing that run is so important for that offensive line too, just because it is, not only is it easier, but it is just so energizing for a line to move forward than to be on defense, right? Trying to protect the pass. So you're building that confidence in that offensive line. You're building that ability for them to be able to power forward and to, not be on the defensive, but be on the offensive. They're offensive linemen. Let them be offensive linemen, and so that's kind of the big thing there. And then as far as the running back, like, that we can get more into the committee from there. Like, we've talked about Kenny Gainwell, how much better that he's started to play as of late. Will Shipley has already shown his value. Like, I don't care that the touchdown got called back. Like, he did it, man. Like, he showed ability on that play, right? And even from there, like, and Brian and I, had loosely talked about it, earlier today, but it could be an opportunity to, to reunite with an old friend, bring in Boston Scott again. You never know about that. But I want to see more of a committee here. Obviously, I love Saquon. Their best hope is Saquon. I'm not saying that they got to go out here and cap Saquon at like 10, 15 touches. I think that's a stupid thing to say.
He's on pace to actually exceed his career high of touches in a season.
Yeah, I mean, so one big reason about that is just that with this team being better, they're running more total offensive plays than with the Giants, and that whole style has changed. Like, while the Eagles like to control the clock, they're not grinding out miserable drive after miserable drive after miserable drive like he was in New York. So
career,
a big
career low in red zone touches, though, right? I assume so.
Yeah, tell that to
Don't
my
even gotta
fantasy
look
team,
at that
damn it.
one.
Well, the thing that we got to remember too, because like obviously touches, like that is like the indicator that everyone looks at, but you got to look at like the context around the touches too. Like, he's not running into a concrete wall every time like he was in New York. He has a support system around him, that offensive line. He's getting out into space. He's able to run out of bounds a lot more because he's getting free. He's getting open. Like, so for me, like, listen, I can't point to a specific stat like someone would be able to point towards touches. It's not, but I do think you have to look at the general context of those touches and just understand that he's not getting beaten, battered, and bruised behind this offensive line. He's doing the beating, the battering, and the bruising, and that makes a big difference as a running back.
Well, it's scary because he got hit in the back on that backwards hurdle. He did come out the game for that little play.
He's
But
fine.
I do agree. We do have to commit to the run and just let it revolve around. I mean, 2017 it revolved around the run. Nick Foles was able to succeed because of the RPO. We're seeing, and as Morgan mentioned, Dan Casey, I kind of looked up what Morgan was speaking about, and you're seeing like the RPO run to success with Jaylen and Saquon, and just that's the bread and butter right there. Teams are starting to fall for it because they know how committed you are to Saquon and getting him his numbers point blank. And as long as you just got to be competent, right? Like AJ Brown, yes, he's a big difference maker. He's probably one of the better, if not the best wide receiver that Eagles have ever had. But when he's not in, he's not in. You can't, like, there's nothing more to it. So you got to get the other guys that you're paying millions of dollars to and get them in a position of success. Let Jahan Dotson run a slant on RPO. Like, let him get the ball in his hands. Let's see what we can do. And it just feels like whether it's Nick, whether it's Kellen, whether it's even Jaylen, overthinking is still a weakness in this offense. And one of the three is truly overthinking at this point, where they believe only the long ball is a way of success. And it is the easy way out at times, even though that's a tough ass throw, and Jaylen nailing Devontae on both of those plays is phenomenal. You still gotta keep the other team's defense off the field and just find other ways to win. Like, you got to make things happen. Like, we got to see the run after the we got to see more yak at the end of the day. That's my thing. I need to see Devontae Smith and John Dodson get a lot more yak.
You mentioned the route that I think is going to be the key to success for the Eagles, and that's the slant, man. Even last year, and how terrible that offensive scheme was. How many times did they just quickly hit a slant to Devontae Smith or AJ Brown, and it just worked? Like, AJ Brown's obvious, man. Like, you just box that dude out. But Devontae Smith, one of the things that we talked about, even when he was coming into the league, is how good he is at finding those spots, right? When, all those little receivers that run over the middle get killed, Devontae Smith is able to find those little nooks and crannies, sit down, receive those passes, and then get those yak yards. Like, except for when it's RPO, right? And one of those plays, I think, Brian, that you would have just looked up was the RPO slant, right? That he was talking about, right? Except for the RPO slant, like, we're not seeing many slants. Like, you're already in pistol. Like, there's, I would say, maybe a handful, maybe 5 DBs that can actually cover Devontae Smith on a slant route. It's tough. That dude is fast. He does a lot of different things with his releases. He's got that little hezzy to him. He's got the false step, like all that stuff, man. It's a 5-yard route. You are a step behind on that guy. That's a completion. It's a completion every single time. And like, how many times we talked about being ahead of the sticks on first down, man? Throw slants. Do all slants. Man, again, like, we used to just call it China. I'm not going to explain why. It's before time. I probably shouldn't be calling it that now, but
wrap that up there. Let's just move on to why.
Yeah. But call it. It's all slants, right? You just throw it quick, like Jahan Dotson, same guy, like same thing, right? Like it's a talented receiver. Get the ball in his hands, see what he can do, right? Just call it, man. Like it's a simple call, and if it doesn't work, great. Now it's 2nd and 10. Not a big deal.
I feel like we all have spoken, and we all came to the same conclusion. Essentially, it's just like we have too much talent to overthink and just do too much. Just be as simple as possible. We even when it comes to our depth, we was talking about depth when we talk about our running backs. We don't want to run Saquon into the ground. Fine. Okay, we know Kenny Gainwell, me personally, in my opinion, isn't he just I don't know, he just runs into the back of people all the time to me. I don't see a lot of just him breaking free. But again, he's still a weapon. Like you said, Will Shipley thing. But again, them being in the game, they necessarily gotta be runs. What happened to option routes? What happened to swinging the running back out into the slide, or having 2 running backs back there with you and they both go out for like it's a lot of different. And this is simple stuff. I'm not sitting there saying I'm a NFL coach and I'm designing plays. I'm just mad and alone. We probably can pick 4 different plays that we know we can give this team and they can execute and they'll always work because that's how talented this team is. You said the slants. That should be a staple. That's a staple in the offense. I think the slant should be in everyone's offense because it's such a easy play that you can. That's what they call an extension of the run game. Okay, you don't want to run Saquon Barkley 27 times like you just did this past weekend. Create some shorter passes. Like you said, why can't the Jahan Dotson be in there and do a slant instead of trying the same bubble screen that haven't worked for the last 3.5 years anyway? So it's just like different things. That's my biggest issue when it comes to, and I know all this started when we was talking about Nick Sirianni. That's why I have the thought process. I feel like he is inserting himself because if you go back to the Dallas days and even in LA, when you had Kellen Moore, that was a staple. The slant was us. How many times we seen CeeDee Lamb just hit it? You know what I'm saying? That's what they did all the time, and now we don't see it at all. That's why I'm like I struggle with the coach. Not saying he's not a good coach. I do believe he's a good motivator. I do believe they listen to him. I do believe he has the right mental as a coach as far as leading men. We talked about him getting better at having the team prepared, less penalties and things. We've seen that over the weeks. We barely had any penalties this past couple weeks. So I do see the progression even in him. It's just the other things that really matter the most. Like you said, when you actually on the field, like you said, calling plays, Morgan, we said the play calling, when it called the situational play calling, should you go for it, should you not go? These are the things I feel like are more detrimental to our team, more so the playoffs more than anything. That's just me how I feel when it comes to that. This team is too talented to every week I'm sitting here pulling my hair out like why?
Man, inside zone, mesh spot, slot post,
anything.
Favorite plays on Madden.
Keep it those 4. You just need 4, man. That's it. Keep it simple, right?
Something you could go to at all times. They are
exactly, man. And I'll tell you this: like you're 100% right. This team is too talented to overthink it, and that's what it is, you know. And Nick Sirianni, like as much as someone would say that I defended him today, like. He overthought that game on Sunday. Like, that's obvious. Like, you can't say otherwise. He clearly overthought the situations. I mean, even when you look into that second touchdown in the first half, by not going for the extra point, what you did is you did not make it a 3-score game against a struggling team. And that opens up that opportunity. That momentum swings. You invite that opportunity for the team to go into the half, say, listen, we're down 2 scores. That's a whole different message than we're down 3. So that's the biggest issue for me is, that he clearly kind of outfoxed himself, right? He
shadow boxing, but he's getting stopped by a shadow.
Yeah, I mean, what do they have? 31 yards, the Jaguars in that first half? Like
Trevor Lawrence, up until that point, had 23 passing yards. 23.
Yeah.
That's it for the game so far. That's why it frustrated me so much. It's like we didn't have to do any of that.
Trevor Lawrence
that you're
is
speaking about.
Yeah, he's interesting because he's like Dak Prescott, except you kind of think like maybe he can pull it off, but only if he's playing with those garbage yards.
The hair.
That's how he's been these past few weeks. The hair's a little different.
The hair's, that's what it is.
The hair's a little different, but I mean, just the way that he's able to respond in garbage time is like it. That's kind of like a thing that I think kind of keeps Jacksonville kind of on that, like maybe this will work. Obviously, they have a lot of money committed to the guy. He was the number 1 overall pick, and he was a highly touted prospect.
He was the second coming of Tom Brady, apparently.
The man's like yards, like they consistently week after week, they come on these like real hopeful comeback attempts, and they fall short every single time. It's just I wonder where, because Doug's gonna get the boot at some point, during or after the season. But man, they have a quarterback problem there, and they got to figure that out too. But that quarterback problem almost overcame Philadelphia because they kept second guessing themselves, and that tells you how bad that situation was this past Sunday.
Could you imagine Monday
right.
morning if we lost to the Jaguars? Could you imagine that morning?
I honestly think like that's the closest you'd get to Sirianni being fired midseason this year. Is if they
I think hands
after
down
that lead to the Cowboys.
If they had lost and he walked into the NovaCare complex on Monday morning, he would have gotten a pink slip, right? That Jamal Adams video when he was locked out of the building, like that would have been it. Like there's no way, like you don't lose.
They just make him get on the bus. Make him get on the bus to the Jaguars. Send him to Jacksonville.
Just let him go. Just at that point, man.
I mean, we probably would have had a trade today and brought Dougie P back for Sirianni.
Hey, I mean, Doug was the guy that wanted Jaylen here, and Jaylen's been I'm a big fan of everything that Jaylen's accomplished in Philadelphia so far, and I feel like he still has a way to go, and it's going to be phenomenal to see. They have a chance this weekend it's weird. Like it feels like the last couple of weeks they've had a chance every week to get right and to continue to take steps in the right direction. They're taking baby steps, but they're getting there. They're facing a very, very beat up Dallas team. They're not facing Dak. CeeDee Lamb, I think, is questionable because of that AC joint.
They're facing the 5-1 Cooper Rush, man.
That's also true.
5-1.
Where'd that one come from?
Well,
I was about to say we gave him that one.
5-2. 5-2.
But I mean, any last thoughts? I mean, I feel like we covered everything from top to bottom with, it's mostly offense. Defense has been stellar nonetheless, in my opinion.
No moves.
I'm sorry, N'Kobe Dean. I'm sorry.
No moves at the trade deadline.
But I'm with it. I mean, the Bryce Huff thing is a little questionable.
That's what I'm saying. No one made they're like compared to last year, man, like no one really made any moves. It must be the asking price. It must be teams are starting to like, I mean, I don't understand the trades today, like getting the Panthers getting a fourth, and then you get.
I mean, that's a very special case.
They're negotiating with an 82-year-old GM. So
yeah,
if you look at the other moves around the league, I feel like prices were actually kind of down, which is what surprised me that there wasn't a move made. But boy, did Dallas get taken for a ride on that one.
Yeah, man. I mean, you mentioned that, Brian. It makes sense. It feels like, your grandma goes, hey, check the candy jar for anything. You just find car keys in there. It's like, all right, cool. Like, I'm taking those. You know what I mean? Like, he's so old. It is what it is. You take what you can get. That's not the Panthers. Good for them, man.
Or black licorice.
Like you won that one.
Yeah. Exactly. It's one or the other. I'll take the car keys for sure. But yeah, like it just seems like teams are really valuing their players. They want to develop. There's so many young teams in the NFL now too that I feel like they want to keep their players. So, I mean, it makes sense to me. If we're touching on the trade deadline at all, it makes sense the Eagles stay put. Like I bet they were in on some calls and just teams are overvaluing their players. There's a lot of teams too that probably think they're still on the cusp of a playoff push with how it's shaping out too. So. I'm happy. I don't know about you guys.
I'm cool.
Dallas going all in for Mingo, huh?
Yeah.
I like You see the quote on what it was like? Oh, a receiver that they've admired for since he came into the league.
Draft.
Like, man, like what was Jerry Jones just like peeking out of the bushes? And
First of all, it's
look at
been
the
2
calves
years
on
and
that
he's been
guy.
a bust since early on. Like,
yeah, it's like
what are we talking about here?
It's such a
55
weird
receptions in 24 games.
2
Is not a
years of
receiver you
sucking
trade a
in
fourth
Carolina.
for.
Yeah, it's like, God damn, like what do you admire him for? Like he's a good cook. Like what's going on? I don't understand.
He fits right in because he sucks, man. That's it. That's got to be what it is.
But I'm very curious of what's going to happen with the pass rush. I mean, Bryce Huff is dealing with a hand injury, quote unquote. He did take a back seat, but we did see, like, we're seeing Nolan Smith go off. The speed is there. The growth is there. Josh Sweat is being Josh Sweat. It feels like, within the coming weeks, we actually should see like what this pass rush can really bring. But again, Bryce Huff is the biggest question mark because nobody knows what the hell we got in him.
Is Zach Bond the greatest free agent pickup of Eagles history?
He would have been if we didn't sign Saquon Barkley.
Did the Eagles sign Nick Foles as a free agent?
No.
We technically drafted him and brought him back.
Okay, and then
Whoa. But he left, and when he came back, was he signed as a free agent?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But top 5 for sure. Top 5 for sure.
He's for sure up there, yeah. Especially if they keep him here in the long term. I mean, that's looking like a great move by Howie.
Absolutely.
With the trade, I have mixed emotions about it because I do understand going into this trade deadline. I didn't need much. I wasn't looking for much. My biggest thing we just spoke on it was the defensive line. Zach alluded to it earlier when we first started. When we start going up against better offensive lines, going up against better, obviously quarterbacks, essentially. I believe it's still an issue. Like you said, you're talking about Bryce Huff hand injury. I mean, he might as well had a hand injury since week 1 because he hasn't done anything since then. So I mean,
hands haven't done nothing.
So it's like that's really not really that okay. You spoke about Nolan. Yes, I've seen the growth. Sweat finally going on, but how long would that last? We seen that last year. Had the hot start early on in the season. Second half couldn't really do nothing, and that was with Hassan on the other side of him, so he actually had the help with him. I'm a little concerned. I'm gonna be honest. The back end linebackers, DBs, safeties, they earned my trust. I mean, outside of we're gonna get a CJ getting burnt once or twice a game. I feel like that's just gonna be the norm. But
regular.
Yeah, that's just regular. But the defensive line is still an issue for me. But that was the tricky part with this trade deadline because I also didn't want to go the bargain basement route. Pickup. We went through that already.
Robert Quinn,
and
another one.
Robert Quinn, even at the linebacker position, Shaq Leonard, doing like all the different people that we brought in that, just didn't pan out. So I definitely was. I know I'm just throwing it out there now because that's probably the Myles Garrett situation. So I know it's others we probably could have got, but I feel like we really needed a solidified. Again, it ain't have to be a star. It ain't have to be Myles, but someone that just create pressure that could get to the quarterback because we're going to need it. We're going to play, and I'm more so about the playoffs more than anything. The NFC isn't fake. What you see from the other teams that are going on right now, that isn't a fluke. It's a large enough sample size to really realize that these teams are for real, like a Detroit Lions who went out and got who's that?
Darius Smith.
Yes, Smith. Even though it was just to fill a hole they're using Hutchinson, but still, it's still a good team overall. And I feel like our defensive line, I don't think how much better they can get, maybe marginally better. I definitely can see that because that's technique and different things, and just the young guys progressing and getting better. But how much better, I don't know. And will it be enough? We'll have to see, and that only remains to be seen. But that's an issue for me going in. And for just a side piece, I know it was talked about on the radio and different things on Twitter and stuff. But I even thought about it early on with the Saquon situation. I am a big advocate of not running him into the ground because I want him here longer than just 2 years, essentially, like that. So a backup running back somewhere we seen Khalil Herbert that just got picked up. You got someone like Jamal Williams down in New Orleans that you probably could have got. Just someone solid. Again, now we could have bargained on the running back situation. We definitely could have got that, but the pass rush, that is a concern of mine. going forward, and I'm definitely interested to see exactly how they progress within the season because Bryce Huff only playing 6 snaps, and I don't care about no hand injury. He was out there late. I seen him in the second half. He ain't go out until later on, so that's an issue. That's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know we're reaching that hour. But the AB brought up the biggest weakness that I see, and I honestly just want to put it out there so we can clip it later when it happens. Safety will be the biggest problem for this team. 100%. CJ is an issue. He's not good. Teams are finding ways. Oh my God, that's also an issue. Whatever's going on with my camera, Brian, you got to remind me, man. Like sometime during the week before it just gets to the podcast, I got to fix that setting. But man, teams are finding ways to isolate him in man coverage, and they are taking advantage. That dude is not a good man cover guy, and teams are just finding ways to indicate that they're a man coverage, and they're going at CJ. He's a prop. So Sidney Brown, man.
He'll be there soon. I was just about to say that. Our answer is here. Just give him some time. He'll be out there sooner than later.
We need him to get better in a hurry. Otherwise, safety is going to be the biggest problem this defense has.
Well, luckily we're not too doomed. We know Sidney Brown's definitely gonna be a stud in this defense, alongside Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, who's freaking phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, we know first and foremost, big ups to AB for joining us today. AB, if you guys have not been paying attention, shame on you guys. AB has been hosting shows throughout the week, whether he's covering Sixers or Eagles. And he's been doing a phenomenal job at that. So, AB, for the people that are watching right now that are not keen to it, can you just plug in your information, let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you spoke, I do a weekly show. Try to do at least two shows a week here on Philly Sports Network. So you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay right here and continue to watch. Just make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. But overall, yeah, I touch everything all Philly sports. Try to dive into. We have fun with it too as well. So it's a light, fun show. So you don't have to worry about coming in there, with your analytic pencils and paper. No, we just have fun, talk about it. We vent. We got a call line, text line, all different types of things. You tune in. We're gonna have fun with it. You can follow me on Twitter at the only one _ AB, and then on all other social media platforms at only the #1 AB __. Yeah, we just have fun, man. Come on out, hang out with me 11 a.m. in the mornings. And we have fun.
Sounds good, man. We appreciate you coming on, AB, and we definitely look forward to having you on again. Other than that, we'll see you guys Saturday morning to preview our Cowboys-Eagles game. It's Dallas week. It doesn't feel like it because Dallas is pretty ass.
Why is that different than any other year?
Heck is that? You gotta have that the shady queued up ready for that moment like that.
It's yeah.
Just the soul taken out of you when you said they're pretty ass. I don't even want to win.
Just gotta call it for
Cowboys fan Brian. Just disappointed in his team's performance.
Giants, Cowboys.
Oh,
I know we about to leave, but I have a question real fast. If we got the moment. For Dallas,
we do
I
not.
know Dallas is coming up. I know. I know Dallas is coming up. Do you play AJ?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
still playing AJ regardless.
Okay. Listen. You can't risk anything. Like if you run up the score and you take it easy, that's one thing. But you cannot take anything for granted.
Division games gonna matter, man. Division games gonna matter.
We've been seeing some Philly teams playing teams that don't have anybody on their roster. Teams up in Toronto, teams down in Memphis, and you undermine your opponent, and they can come up and get one, especially in the NFL any given Sunday.
You might need him to rush the passer. Just saying. Fuck.
Somebody.
You never know. You never know.
But yeah, other than that, I'm Brian Cameron alongside Zach Chavalella, Morgan Burkett, AB. We're flipping the birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Yes,
Go
sir.
Birds. Flip